Hey everyone, I'm Lucy, your host for Start the Conversation, a series dedicated to shining a light on building the future of your community with neurodiversity in mind. Each episode will bring you conversations with inspiring individuals who are making a significant impact in their fields, from neurodiversity in sports to creating inclusive work environments. Our aim is to educate, inspire, and empower our listeners to make a difference. So sit back, relax, and join us as we start the conversation. Hi, it's Lucy here from Inclusive Change, and I'm here today talking all about neurodiversity in parent carer forums around the UK. And I'm here with a guest today, Roger. Roger, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, Roger, you're from Epic Luton Parent Carer Forum over in, guess where? Luton. How you doing today? You okay?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you so much for jumping on and having a chat with me about neurodiversity, and particularly neurodiversity in parent carer forums and how we support our staff and our members, but also talking about things from a personal lived experience as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to dig into some questions, Roger, and I know we've sent them before and we've got a heck of a lot to talk about. So let's get stuck in, shall we?
Yeah.
So let me start on some questions, okay? And the first one I'm going to ask is, how does neurodiversity show up in you?
Okay, so I've always been neurodivergent from the very get-go, but I only just realized a lot later in life. So just an example from when I was in infant school, my mum was told that I was one of the brightest children in my class, or
I'm not surprised.
But what I didn't realize at the time, and neither did my mum, was there was a lot of routine in place, and you sort of saw the same people, the same sort of teachers, and that really kind of structured my education, and it was really helpful. But the moment I went into junior school, things started to get a lot more difficult. Not only was I expected to be a lot more independent, it was the fact that my friend circle got a lot bigger, and I found it very difficult to sort of share my friends, and again had no idea. And it's funnily enough that in junior school, they gave me lunchtime duties because they saw me just not doing a lot, and I absolutely loved it. Like neurotypical children probably would have hated that. They probably would have thought like it's a punishment, but with me, I absolutely loved it, and in return I got my lunch first, and for me that was a reward. So throughout the whole lunchtime, I used to help the teachers just give out things or clean up, and it really like kind of boosted my confidence when I was in school. But the moment I went to secondary school, I really struggled, really struggled. I had a best friend that came with me to that school, and kind of protected me quite a lot when I was being like bullied, or there was like comments. But the moment he kind of left school, things really changed for me. I didn't have that support, and also the routine was a lot more complex. You had to see different teachers, different so it was just really hard. And believe it or not, I skived off for a year and a half from school.
I'm not surprised in the slightest. That's very common.
So I used to go for reception and then just leave the school and then sneak back in for the second afternoon. And the attendance officer didn't find out, or no one found out. And and then when they eventually gave me a learning mentor, it kind of changed my life. They were there. They were a support system when I was panicked, when I felt overwhelmed. I went and spoke to my learning mentor, and that was allocated to me in year 10. So you can imagine 3 years of my education was very difficult. But I was expected to have 0 GCSEs, and by the time I left, I had 5 GCSEs, which is what I needed. So I just wanted to obviously that was my journey throughout school, and I at the time knew that I needed like structure, but I didn't know that why I needed it or why it was so important. And so that was basically my childhood growing up.
That's really powerful, and it's really helpful to hear, because many young people will be going through those similar experiences, and parents will be going through those experiences, and carers who can see that happening with their own children.
Yeah.
So, right, what strengths does your neurodivergence bring, or that you feel you have?
So because obviously I'm a child that has that lived, no, I'm not a child, I'm an adult that had that lived experience as a child,
Yeah.
but also I'm now a parent of a child that's neurodivergent. So I feel with me, I'm very empathetic and I deeply understand what others are going through. And when I'm having to like attend strategic meetings or stuff like that, I sometimes lose focus or whatever. But when I'm speaking to parent carers that are actually talking about neurodivergent, their children or their experiencing themselves, I can really stay focused and I can, my mind doesn't differ. I know what they're talking about. I've had that lived experience. So it really helps me. And I think even in my role right now, like I started off
Mhm.
as a volunteer in Epic. It was literally just creating a parent support group in 2021. And over this time, like when I first obviously started, had no idea I was neurodivergent. But the more and more we spoke about it, I'm like, actually, you know what? That kind of resonates with me. That's
Mm.
I'm probably neurodivergent. And it was a very long waiting assessment. I had 4 years.
Mm.
I had my assessment, but when I eventually did have it, honestly, they even after the assessment, they told me on the day that you're autistic. And I personally, I think that's the strength that it brings in me is the fact that now that I work in a field where there's people that are neurodivergent and there's children that are neurodivergent, it it helps me. That lived experience goes a very long way, and I feel like a
Mm.
lot of parent carers actually say that as well. The fact that there's someone there that actually has lived experience. But the best thing about parent care forums is other than like the admin staff and certain technical like treasurers and stuff, majority of the people that work in there have lived experience as a parent carer of a child with being neurodivergent. And
Mm.
I feel like with me, I've just got that little bit extra where I've because I've got the lived experience as well. It goes a really far way, really long
Yeah,
way.
absolutely. So, next question is around what barriers or challenges do you experience being a neurodivergent adult working in a forum? Think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's the answer? So
yeah,
it makes a huge difference when you kind of explain it at the beginning, or if someone's not sure, giving them the opportunity to sort of say, you're more than welcome to ask. You're
yeah,
not going to feel, yeah. If you say that right at the beginning, then obviously I'll feel a lot more confident in terms of saying, actually, can you tell me what that is? Probably I'll probably be a bit annoying, but it helps me sort of work that way. But that was a huge thing for me, a huge barrier. Last minute meetings as well. We had a lot of them. But since obviously getting more confident, I've told them we need notice and stuff. And I'd say the biggest barrier for me out of all of these things was social situations. Till this
mhm,
very day, I still really, really struggle. Small talk is very difficult for me. So even at yesterday's meeting, I met people for the first time and I'm trying to make this conversation, but then I'm having a long pause and processing the information and then speaking again. And sometimes it could come across as me being rude. But to be honest with you, I just want to speak to everyone, but I just don't know how to start that conversation or
mm,
how to speak to others. So it really helps when people actually reach out to me and say hello to me and then have that small conversation. Because then the only thing I really need to do is respond. Just a bit like today
yeah,
when you ask me the questions, I know I can respond. But
yeah.
um, yeah, it's really hard for me to actually start a conversation, and that's happened with professionals, with parents, with even with colleagues. It's been really, really difficult. So yeah,
And
that's
so those kind of things, and this isn't one of the questions, but those kind of things you've just talked about could stop people from applying for a role, either as a volunteer or as a paid member of a team within a forum, because they think I can't do that. I find that too difficult.
yeah,
But your journey, as you said earlier, you started as a volunteer and now you've ended up leading this organization and being able to feel more confident in yourself.
yeah.
So, what can we do, or what can other people do to reduce those barriers?
Yeah, so I think I probably went on a tangent and I've said some of the things already in
No,
front of
it's
me.
fine.
But I think one of the thing is sharing agendas and expectations in advance. So
Mhm.
it's sometimes people just share agendas and they don't let you know what they're expecting from you as a person or you as an organization. But if
Mm,
there was any sort of information in regards to that. So, this is what we're expecting from you. Can you bring this sort of information or feedback to us? It really helps, because then I know what's expected of me. I don't want to go in there, and get blindsided. Basically, it makes it really difficult for me. I've already mentioned this in terms of last minute meetings. They put a lot of stress, and I get personally really anxious, and there's times where there have been last minute meetings, and although I've really wanted to attend, I can't attend because my anxiety has sort of kicked in.
Mm.
I would what I've really benefited from, and I would really suggest that people do this, or organizations do this, is use very clear, simple, friendly words, because a lot of the time there's very big, complex words that are said in the meetings, and you can't expect people to know these words, and it's a bit similar to the acronyms. I then get distracted and think, okay, what does that mean? And then I have to go and quickly Google it up, and that is, it takes a huge lot of my time, and people can just help by just keeping it short and simple and friendly.
Mm.
I think that's really helped me over the last couple of years is I when I get really overwhelmed, or when there's a lot of people that I don't really know, and I feel like, I don't know, whatever.
You want to shrink, don't you? Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't want to be in that room. I just want
yeah.
to be away.
I've turned off my camera, and
Mhm.
I don't do it all the time, but I do it on occasions where I feel very overwhelmed. And
Mm.
um, the fact that if people can appreciate that, I know that there's many services that do, but there's many services that don't, and they actually say, "Can you turn your camera on?" I
Yeah.
think that makes it really, really difficult for us as people. And something that's happened in this conversation as well, Lucy, is the fact that I sometimes go off on a tangent and I drift
Mhm.
off. So politely being drifted back into the conversation is perfect, because when people kind of say that wasn't what we asked you, or put you on the spot, basically, it makes you feel.
Yeah.
So so
We
that
had it, didn't we, at the beginning of this conversation, and I phrased a question slightly differently,
yeah,
and I could see, no, I need to go back and do the original question, because otherwise, I could see you processing it, and I thought,
yeah,
no, that's not the right question. I need to start again,
yeah.
and
So
that will put you on the spot.
yeah, and that obviously, like, it makes me panic, and then I'm like, oh my god, and then I go into this meltdown. But yeah, so things like that, and I have been encouraged to use AI note takers. But what happens
Mhm.
is, when you go to certain meetings, there's already minute takers there, and they
Mm.
say, we will
I'll send you them.
we'll send you the minutes. The problem here is, when you get the minutes, sometimes they are several days later, and I need them there and then, so that I can
Mm.
process in real time. And if there was something that actually someone said, and I didn't fully understand it, if I've got my own AI note take, I can go back to my AI note take and reference it and say,
Mm.
actually, okay, that's what you meant. But then when I'm depending on someone, like, to send me the minutes several days later, I've probably even forgotten the conversation. And it
I'll
doesn't
have
make.
forgotten the meeting.
Yeah. So I personally feel like, if AI note takers were allowed, regardless of whether minutes were taken or not, it makes a huge difference
Mm.
for people like myself.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you on that one. So next question is, any top tips for supporting neurodivergent adults? That could be staff or members of your forum.
Okay, so I've got a list that I'll tell you about. So one is
Love it.
preparation, giving as much notice before asking input. So a bit like today, to be honest, you've told me a couple of days in advance, and I've mentally prepared, and I've prepared a little list. So that really helps. Clear cues as well. It lets people know when it's their turn. Sometimes, when
Yeah.
right at the beginning, what used to happen was, when I used to be in meetings, I used to just quickly just say stuff, and um, it could come across as rude. I'm not.
Mm.
I'm just really passionate, and I really wanted to talk about things. But I've now started to use the hand up button in Teams. But even then, sometimes what happens is, I've put that up, and they've not come back to me for about a couple of minutes, and I've forgotten the what I actually had to
The
say.
conversation, yeah.
Yeah. So if there was clear cues, it makes life a lot easier, a lot easier.
Yeah.
Um, as I've said, in terms of clarity, in terms of just using accessible, clear, friendly words, not very big or complex words. If you can't give out full, like, detailed minutes, even if it was like a short written summary after the meeting, that this is what was discussed and stuff like that, it really keeps things, like,
In your
active.
head.
Yeah, in my brain. Yeah. Um, Social support is a huge issue for me. I've had this issue for my whole life, but
Mm.
icebreakers would really help. And just understanding, that when I'm silent, I'm not being rude, or I'm not being, arrogant.
Mm,
I just don't know how to start that conversation.
mm,
So that would be a huge support for people like myself. Um,
amazing.
Processing time, just give us a bit of time to process, because when you've said something and it's quite a big piece of information, it's not going to sink in. It's going to take a bit of time. We might actually even ask questions. Actually, did you mean this or did you mean that? Because there's
Mm,
just so much information. So sometimes these meetings are very jam packed, and you have a lot of information in these meetings, and yeah, it takes a bit of time. Um, and yeah, and just the flexibility, to be honest, the options for cameras off, having a quiet space if you're meeting in person, or if I'm not able to speak on the day for whatever reason, allowing me to give written contribution afterwards,
yeah.
it make a huge difference.
I think also using things like the chat function in a meeting, so allowing people to chat. I quite often, if my mic isn't working or if I'm in a space that I can't talk, um, I will use the chat and I'll be typing ferociously whilst everybody else is talking, and then somebody else can read it out on my behalf.
Yeah,
So that can be quite helpful. But then sometimes you think, oh, I shouldn't be doing this because everybody, there's too much, but I do it anyway. So
I'll
yeah.
just tell you a bit about that. Once, like I that was definitely a feature that I used a lot. But what
Mm.
happened on a few occasions was I've typed in the message, and then the person that's reading it says, "Oh, Raja, can you please elaborate on this?" And I'm like, the
No, I
reason,
can't.
yeah, the reason I actually put it in there was because I don't want to speak. So yeah, so that
And
has
I
helped.
would, and actually, I would advocate and say, if that is the case, I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, I don't want to talk on microphone. Here is my comments. Can somebody else read it for me? I've done that in many meetings and had offered that to other people in my meetings as well, so people can engage in whatever way works for them.
Yeah, so that would be another point, to be honest, for for people that actually doing it, is don't put people on the spot when they're messaging.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. Next question, we kind of covered it a little bit because you gave us a bit of your background from school and childhood. But are you open to sharing a bit more about your personal journey with neurodiversity and how it shaped your life?
Yeah, so obviously growing up as a child and stuff, it was incredibly difficult, especially from junior school onwards. Funnily enough, when I went into my first year of college, I did extremely well. I was just focusing on one subject, and at the end of the year, I studied at Barnford College. I don't know if they still do it or not, but they gave me a trophy for saying Student of the Year, and that was a huge confidence booster from because
Mm,
in junior and secondary, I struggled so much, and then obviously first year in college, I've done really well. Um, for me, the following year was quite difficult for me because my nan became
yeah.
quite ill,
Yeah.
and I wasn't expecting it, and I had to leave education to become a full-time carer. So I cared for her for 9 years, and during that 9 years, I also got married. I had a child, so there was a lot of responsibilities on me. But when my nan passed away in 2018, it really like shook me up. I wasn't expecting it because my whole structure, my whole routine changed. I was in and out every day caring for her, and
Mm,
although I still had my daughter and I had my wife, it was a huge change for me. So that really affected my mental health. And because I didn't know what to do, like I didn't have the right support. I didn't know I was neurodivergent. If I probably did, I probably
mm,
would have tried other things or gone into certain groups. But that had a huge impact on me. And um, it was only a few months later when I got my, when I was like able to like grieve and stuff like that, I was able to focus fully on my daughter because she had very complex needs as well, very
mm,
challenging behavior. And from one routine, I went into another routine. I went into from caring for my nan, I started caring for my daughter.
mhm.
And because I was fully able to focus on that within, even though she was 6 years old when my nan passed away, the first 6 years she was showing a lot of signs and a lot of challenging behavior and stuff, but I was never able to fully support her. The moment I fully invested my time in there, within 2 to 3 years, she got her diagnosis and she got all the support that
All
she
the
needed.
support.
Yeah, all the support that she needed. But that's when something triggered me, and I was like, actually, she's a lot like myself.
Mm,
So is there something that I'm not looking into?
yeah.
That's when the whole journey for Epic started, because we literally started as a parent support group, and at first I was like, I don't really want to get a diagnosis. Like, what
What
use?
difference will it make?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what use is it now? Because I'm now in my 30s, and the fact is, like, I don't need an EHCP. I'm not going to get school support. I'm not going to get
Mhm.
stuff. And but in my back of my mind, I always felt like actually you need that
Validation.
validation, yeah, and you need to
Mm,
it just has to be done. So I went on the waiting time. It didn't help that it was 4 years, to be honest. It was really
mm,
bad. But when I eventually got it, I'll be honest with you, Lucy, it has really it's changed me as a person. I now know that I'm different, and
mhm,
I can validate it, whereas before I couldn't.
mm,
It has really helped me build my confidence. And you know what? At first, if you had asked me a few years ago, um, Raja, are you potentially autistic or are you neurodivergent? Or I probably would have just kind of, not answered that question or been a bit ashamed or however you want to say it. But I now if someone asks me, I openly say it because I feel like me being different is actually like I know it's a bit of a cliche, but like my superpower.
mhm,
I
mhm.
I honestly feel that way. So yeah, so that's basically my journey. I've probably gone on a fun tangent again,
No,
but
you haven't actually. It's incredible to hear, and I think what you said will probably resonate with a lot of people, because it's very common to not be able to say I am neurodivergent or I am ADHD or I am autistic if you haven't got the certificate, if you haven't got the badge that says it.
Mhm.
We find it very hard to do that and very, very hard to take that on. And it can make a big difference because it can make you feel so much more comfortable about who you are and why you do the things you do. And again, I'm going off on a tangent, but labels are something that some people will shy away from because why would I want my child labeled about this or whatever? But would you prefer to have a label of idiot or slow or stupid or weird? And I think sometimes we have to look at that. And as an adult, it can really make a difference to your life by knowing who you are.
Yeah, and this is probably a bit off topic, but I just wanted to
Mhm.
say, in terms of obviously neurodivergency, there's just not enough awareness. I know it's getting a lot better, but there still
Mhm.
isn't enough. And I remember when my daughter got diagnosed, I informed my family, and one of the senior members in my family said, "Oh, when is she going to get better?" And these are the things where she doesn't need to get better. She's different,
It's
and
who she
she's
is.
perfect. Yeah, she's perfect the way she is. But since she's got the diagnosis, I've been able to support her the right way
Mm,
that she needed. And to be honest with
mm.
you, she's a totally different child to what she was a couple of years ago. She's got structure in her life, routine. We've even planned up until December this year. So
Wow.
she knows what she's kind of expecting. And it's since then, obviously, I've also been working with colleagues and I'm planning up until December because planning in advance makes life so much different. And yeah,
Mm,
there's still a lot of awareness that needs to be out there.
mm. And that can be, that planning bit can be a bit of a challenge sometimes, particularly if
Yeah,
we're working with people who are ADHD and people who are autistic and neurotypical parent carers as well,
yeah.
because actually we all have different ways of doing stuff. But I do very strongly believe in that forward plan. And that kind of takes me to my next question about how has being neurodivergent influenced your role as a leader at Epic?
Um, so there's been quite a lot, to be honest, that I've learned whilst being in Epic. But what I have learned is like obviously when I came in, I was neurodivergent. I didn't know I was neurodivergent, and I
Yep.
think the way that it's influenced my role is that the lived experience has been it's been essential to my job, and I've been able to understand like other parents and carers, and even like I've not given a lot of my own personal experiences, but when people have actually spoken to me openly, I'm actually like, you know what, that was me a few years ago, so you shouldn't like
Mm,
don't let this like this is probably it's only going to get better. Basically, it's only going to get better now that you're part of Epic, now that you're part of our organization. We're there to signpost you, we're there to even sometimes we just as part of our organization we just listen. And I think that's a
mm,
huge it's a huge skill that a lot of people don't really realize. But being part of Epic, it has really built my confidence.
mm.
I don't want another job until I'm a pensioner. I honestly just want to stay in this job. Like
Oh
I
my goodness, that's magic.
yeah,
Yeah.
this job has been magical for me. It's really improved my confidence, everything. And um I think, as I previously said, obviously the empathy, the sympathy that I can give parents, the way that I can be there for them, I honestly feel like it wouldn't be the case if I wasn't neurodivergent. I think I probably
Mm.
would have been a lot more understanding and tried supporting them to the best I can, but that lived experience has played key part in my leadership role.
Thank you. That's amazing to hear that statement of, "I don't want another job until I retire." That that will help when times are really hard and things get difficult, to be able to go, "Actually, I know I can keep going. I know we can find a way through things like that." What do you wish that people understood more about neurodivergent colleagues?
So I have previously mentioned this one as well, but yeah, with me, I go all over the place. So quiet, being quiet is not being rude. We
Mm,
just It's just difficulty with small talk, and I think that is, for me, that was the biggest barrier, and still is the biggest barrier when I'm growing in my role as a leadership, because I'm expected to kind of socialize and mix with, other Eastern regions, people from Eastern region, and from other, even locally, I need to meet a lot of new people, and I just don't know how to start that conversation. So if that would make a huge difference if they just started it, and then I can just, continue with the conversation with the
mm.
flow. I sometimes don't make eye contact. I really, really struggle, and I feel like when people are talking to me and I'm not making eye contact, or I've just started to think about I'm processing. Some people think that I'm not listening, but I am listening. I need to have a bit of a break from eye contact because
Yeah.
it's
It's
really
a
hard.
sensory thing, isn't it? And it's
Yeah,
all oh, what are they expecting me to say? There's a whole range of things that come with the eye contact
yeah,
aspect of things. And some people, you can learn to look at people's noses, learn to look at their mouth. They
yeah,
think that you're looking at them, but actually you're thinking about something else, because you're processing everything else
yeah.
rather than processing what's going on with somebody's face and what's going on with somebody else's eyes.
Yeah. And the last thing that I'd mention as well is tangents. It's part of who we are. We go off on tangents, and it's the way that we process information. Like, we have to say that bit before we get back to that bit again. It's just the way that we process information. And please don't be offended if I've like if I, or if people like me have gone off on a tangent, because it's not that we're not focused. We are focused. It's just we need to say this bit before we come back to that point again.
It's important context sometimes, and I'll quite often, and I'll go off on a story and I'll say, "Bear with me, because this will come back to the point, I promise, but you need to know this bit first."
Yeah.
And they kind of go, "Okay," and we
Yeah.
get there. We
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, I've had a few professionals say you've gone down a rabbit hole, um,
yeah,
and when they say things like that, at the time I didn't even know what a rabbit hole was. So I was thinking, what? So it's even making comments like that. Just be careful, like you're saying things that the other person might not understand. And
yeah.
the moment she said you're going down a rabbit hole, like I had
Oh,
to
I'm
honestly,
off.
yeah,
Are there some bad bunnies in there? What am I finding in a rabbit hole? How
yeah,
long is the rabbit hole? I've got the vision of the rabbit hole in my head right now.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's what happens.
Um, yeah. Right. Rounding up these questions, what message would you like to give your younger self, or to neurodivergent young people and families today?
So growing up, I first started thinking I was very weird, or that I
Mhm,
wasn't smart enough. But in fact, like, that is, you go through that moment,
mhm,
especially when you haven't got the validation, when you haven't got the support. But with the right support in place, I honestly feel so much more confident. It's not about being smart or not. It's just the way that we understand things, and there might be a different way than neurotypical people understand stuff. But there's people that are neurodiverse can still understand the same piece of information. It might just need to be done differently.
yeah.
So obviously, growing up, I always doubted myself, but I wish I should. I didn't, because it had a huge impact on my mental health. Um, I always thought I was different, and that being different was a bad thing. Um, but actually, it's been my strength in my organization, and it's been a strength for my role, because um, I've really, yeah, it's basically just been like, as I said, like, it's been like a superpower for me. Honestly,
Mm,
like, I've had yeah, just with obviously I've had a lot of support from my colleagues, and I thank
mhm,
them wholeheartedly. But I do feel like they've always, even when I was in a volunteer position, they'd come and pick my brains and be like, "Can you give us a bit of this, and can you give us a bit of
mm,
that?" So being different
mm.
is not
No.
bad. One thing again I would say, and this probably sounds a bit like a cliche again, but I don't just think with my brain; I think with my heart, and that for me it's so important, because for me as a neurodivergent person, I think, and then I double think, and I put everything into it. Like, it's not just, you know, yeah, it's not my brain. My heart and brain work together,
Yeah.
and that's just the way that I've
And
always been.
You can't ask for much more than that in a
Yeah,
leader and in a human being, to be quite
yeah,
honest with you. And we need more of that, particularly at this time of and how the world is right now. So just to finish off, and quite not a little bit on a tangent, but not quite. Can you tell me a bit about Epic and what Epic does in Luton?
yeah. So Epic is the Luton Parent Carer Forum. It's part of a whole network of parent care forums.
Mhm.
We've got the National Network Parent Care Forum, and then we've got the Eastern Region. We all support families of children that have um, special educational needs and disabilities. I was going to say SEND, but I don't want to use
Yep.
acronyms.
No,
um,
brilliant.
so it's basically just supporting those families that have those children, and we do this by bringing parent carers together
Mhm.
to share experiences and feeding those voices back into strategic seats. So whether it's with the council, whether it's with I always say NHS, but it's like the ICBs.
Mm.
Which is again integrated care board.
Thank
um,
you.
so we feed that back into them, and our aim is to just make things better for those families. However we do it, whether we just take their feedback and try improving services or the gaps in provisions, but also some organizations like myself, we arrange send friendly events that are not going to be available out there, and we really try to tailor them to support our
Mhm.
families. Sometimes we even include siblings so that there's not a lot of opportunities out there. So that's what we do, and we're trying to improve things locally, but also long term. So that's basically what our role is. But our voice is also very important for the other networks like the Eastern Region and National
Mhm.
Network Parent Care Forum, because it can change things in a big way.
Oh goodness, you can have influence up as well as supporting people on the ground
Yeah.
and directly, which is, I know that you're very passionate about doing that. That comes across in that. How can people get in touch with you if they want to get involved with Epic?
So the easiest way to contact us is our email address, which is
Mhm.
contact us at epiclutonpcf.org. PCF meaning Parent Care Forum, but we had to
Thank
shorten it.
you.
Otherwise our email address would have been very, very long. So that would be one of the easiest way to get in contact with us. We
Mhm.
do have a website, which is
Mhm.
again www.epiclutonpcf.org. So
Brilliant.
there's information on that. We obviously locally we give out a lot of leaflets and flyers, and we connect with services that kind of promote our services and stuff. So that's really helpful. We as a parent carer forum, we are not just taking on parent carers that are from Luton. We also support those families that are outside from Luton but
Mhm.
access services within Luton. So we've just tried to make it a bit more broad and just
Mm.
help as many as we can, to be honest. And it's going really well. So that's the way that we support families. And I could always share a leaflet with you. I don't know how you're going to put that as part of
Yeah,
this, but yeah,
yeah.
that's how we support families.
And have you got any events coming up between now and January that you want people to get involved with or find out about?
Yeah, so we have just planned two events. One is a annual Scent Panto that we've been doing. This is the third year now that we're going to be doing this, and it supports 215 people in total. So
Mhm.
last year we had between 60 to 70 families that
Mhm.
benefited from this event, and it's been a huge success. And the Panto organization really worked with us and tailor the support that the Panto performance for our families. And that's happening in December 6th. And then we've got something else happening on the first week of December as well. It's just literally been confirmed, but it's the autism reality experience. We are setting this up for those families that are new to SEND, that are not aware of how it's like to be autistic, but also those families that probably have got the diagnosis a few years ago but
Mm.
just don't know what it actually is or how it feels like. It's just we're setting this up for our parents and carers so that they get the experience, so that it could enhance their knowledge, and it can also help understand their children and young people better.
That's fantastic. Roger, I'm going to say a massive, massive thank you. It's been incredible listening to your story, to your experiences, and how you work at Epic. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we finish?
So obviously growing up, I was very misunderstood, sometimes even seen as aggressive when I was just frustrated and asking for help. But through my journey, especially through Epic, starting as a parent carer volunteer and today being the managing director of Epic, it's built my confidence. I've learned skills that are gonna, be there for the rest of my lifetime, and I have just started to truly understand myself. So for me, this has been, it's been huge. It's been massive since the diagnosis in this year. It's been a huge turning point for me. So for the first time, I can proudly say that I am neurodivergent. I am different, but that difference is my strength. And that's what I'd like to end with.
I think we could ask for nothing more. Thank you for tuning in to Start the Conversation. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and remember, conversations like these help us make a difference, one discussion at a time. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover, or if you'd like to be featured on the show, don't hesitate to reach out. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, I'm Lucy. Take care.